Okay, hello. Coming to you live from, well, not live, recorded from a beautiful Sunday morning here in sunny South Florida. Yeah, we are back and we're talking about more One Piece, as we do every time there's a new chapter. As I say, every single time lately, this was another absolute banger. For an action chapter, there was a quite a lot to talk about here. Maybe I should have thought to sit down and make a list of everything I brought up in all of the text conversations I've had about this chapter, but I did not do that. I just hit record, so we are going to do it. Recording on Sunday right now. I read it on Friday, so I'm going to have the chapter up to sort of refresh things and also go through my notes here. But yeah, this is another fantastic chapter. The Oda's really going full hand with Summers at this point, if he hadn't done so already. I think Summers is such a great Oda villain in the sense that they're simultaneously like incredibly real and like a really solid portrayal of like certain themes while also being like an insane wacky cartoon character, and I feel like that's like same with Doflamingo, who's my favorite villain in the series and one of my favorite villains ever written. Like he like rides that fine line of, oh my god, this is a real person that could exist in our world, and also this is a like children's cartoon character. Like and I love it to death. I love when Oda does that. So Summers is really getting up there in that line. Drinking some Lavazza coffee on this fine morning. Yeah, so I'm going to find all my thoughts here, which I should have done before the video, but so I think let's get to the end of the chapter right off the bat, because the rest is like other points I could bring up throughout the chapter, but I really want to talk about Loki's fruit. So when I first saw it, I was like, is this like a hybrid of a wolf and a dragon, or is this intended to just be a dragon? Because it has some like wolf element with like the teeth and the tongue. That's usually how Oda depicts wolves. And also, the horns are very like bull-like as well. And also like the like the dragons have spikes, but like sort of like the spiky pattern around like where his neck would be is kind of very like reminiscent of like a wolf's like fur, So it could just be a dragon. I could be like over speculating here, but I mean the design is just awesome. And there's also a lot in the Mirinal that looks like that, which is interesting. But also something I noticed is that this looks very reminiscent of the silhouette forms of the Gorosei's like monster forms, or the yokai forms, whatever they call them. Um, so I was very curious. Like that could be nothing. That could just be a similar thing. But I felt I have to note that because we're talking about how this is this legendary fruit and everything like that. And I wonder, and this gets me into the thing, I am still sticking by the theory that there are two Nika fruits. I think there's been so much evidence of it. One more centric around liberation and one more centric around destruction, and that the two need to work in tandem to bring in a new era to the world. That's kind of where I'm standing with that. I think there's been so many hints at it with Bonnie transforming, and they're really bringing like two Nikas, with all the evidence from the Harleys, the Murinals, I love how casually I just say Murinal now, but there's just been so much evidence how like Elbaf's religion interprets, like some people interpret it as the god of liberation, some people interpret it as the god of destruction, there's just so much hinting at this, and I really think it's true. And that leads me to wonder, like, what if though there are 7 almost god fruits, and like the 2 Nika fruits, and then the 5 whatever fruits that the Gorosei have, and That's why the government is so fixated on these fruits and abilities, and maybe they were like originally supposed to be part of like, you know, almost seven deadly sins, analogous seven, you know, elders, you know. um I feel like that's over speculating, but I feel like my two Nika fruit thing kind of still stands. I think that's like over speculation, but I wonder if this is sort of a, these two are part of a collection of the fruits that the Gorosei has five, the government has five of, and gave it to the Gorosei, versus Luffy and Loki having the other two. Um, just the random thoughts, nothing concrete here. Um, yeah. So two of my friends were talking about how they think it might be the world serpent from Norse mythology, um, which Loki's form, which could very well be, and that would align with a lot of the stuff in the Harley texts as well. So I think that's definitely very plausible. Yeah, I don't know enough about Norse mythology to sort of like a lot of people have been like speculating so much about the Elbaf arc just based on their knowledge of Norse mythology, and I do not have that background. But I think the biggest thing I meant to say before is the final page says, "And the sun god will rise." Well, drums of liberation will boot out, and the sun god will rise. And it's not showing Luffy; it's showing Luffy and Loki, and that kind of like was the thing that made like, okay, maybe my like two Nika fruits like theory has like stronger legs. And Loki even saying he's Nika, you know, I think there's a lot of evidence here. I could most definitely be wrong, but I really think I'm leaning in that direction right now. So if I am right, you come back to me. I think let me just get more of my notes up quickly. But I think going back to Summers, I think it's so. I love when stories do this to where a villain like has a plan that's like could like hypothetically work, and they're so fixated on their own like bullshit, you know, and their own arbitrary like obsessions with certain things that like that's their downfall. I think a really good example of that was the toy maker in not Spy Kids 3 toy maker, the Doctor Who toy maker, to where he was so fixated on everything in like his instilling his will that everything in the universe should be played by the rules of a game, that like he lost. He was going to win, but he lost because he was so fixated on gamifying the situation, you know. So I feel like this is like very similar with what was going on with Summers, to where yeah, it's almost like they could have stopped, they could have figured out a new way to get the kids, they could have regrouped, they could have figured out a new solution, but because of his fixation on like his sadism, like love focused sadism, he like, you know, they lost control of the kids. They don't have them in their grasp anymore at all. So yeah. There was one thing else I wanted to note here. That was when you see the flashbacks of all the kids and their parents. There is one kid that is holding a plush. Oh, it's Colin. And Ripley looks so good in that panel. It's like she's wearing a hoodie. Oh my god, I didn't even notice that. It's like that video of like the guy seeing that Persona 4 going, oh damn. And then like the whole video derails and everyone's laughing. That's me right now at this Ripley panel. Wow. That's all I'll say. But he's holding a plush that looks exactly like Emmett. Is it Emmett? Let me check that, because I always feel like my brain flops between Emmett. My brain always flops between the two, but that's clearly like a plush of Emmett. So it like kind of adds further context to that, like, you know, how Elbaf's religion is being centered around Nika, and they have the Harley text and the mural. Like, they've probably over time distilled the events of the Voyage Gendry and Joy Boy's crew as their religion. You know, like, and we kind of knew this to some extent already. Like, that's obviously the case, but I feel like it's more concrete that they're seeing these like events like with Joy Boy that we will see in the flashback, that that's their religion. Like, they're having a plush is like, you know, like someone having a toy of a biblical figure in like a Christian society, you know, or Jewish society, you know, things like that. They're having a plush of Emmett is almost like they see these like the members of like Joy Boy's crew as like religious figures, you know, religious legend. And I think that's really cool. And it's like Oda does this all the time, where it's like just insane levels of world building from like one background detail. Like, him having that plush just does so much for the world building. I think that's why Oda is just such a thing, because he didn't have to do that. Like, that was not the purpose of the scene. He totally did not have to do that there. But the fact that he added that detail in was just like, it's just like, oh, I'm just gonna give you a ton of world building and things to speculate. Just a little detail, just a little crumb. And I think that's why God Oda is just so fucking good. Such a good writer. Okay, let's do. I think that was all the points I want to talk about, but let's do one last scroll for the chapter. I love the cover page. I love these like little art commissions, you know, that people's requests that he's doing. But I'm really digging to get back into a cover story. Like, the Yamato one was so long, we haven't gotten something in a while, so I'm really itching for it. But yeah, I got the Summer's faces so much here. I do wonder if Emu's going, because like Sara's like, well, it's technically Emu's fault if all this stuff is happening with Gonko, so it's not my fault. Does he really think he can like psychologically manipulate like a not zero compassion fascist ruler, you know, like that? Like, no, he's gonna get fucking skewered like Jay Garcia did. And that will be an incredibly satisfying scene, albeit disturbing. I was kind of hoping when they were all falling and, you know, I was hoping Robin would protrude giant hands out the side of the cliff and catch them, because she could have very well done that. That could have been a possibility if she escaped in time. But I mean, the reveal of the final panel was just so sick. Trying to think that that about does it here. I think the points I wanted to bring up. Yeah, another banger chapter. Sadly, a break next week, but we got so many in a row this batch. So I was like, okay, you know, he deserves a break. It's fine.